It's training camp season. Today we're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're getting a good look at Brashard Smith. We're going to watch him catch some balls, run some routes, everything else. Before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're looking at your players every day. We're looking at your rookies, those guys climbing the depth chart, and those guys are going to be drafted in fantasy football this year or picking up off waivers. That's rather important if you want to know if the players are good or not. It's right here. Click that button. Know what your players are doing behind the scenes. But we're looking at Brashard Smith right now. More clips for a late round running back. That is a good thing to see. We got a lot to talk about here about Brashard Smith. There he is, number 30, right there. And you're going to see some good things. Notice who's at quarterback. Notice who's at wide receiver. We're getting work with the ones. There it is. There it is. We're getting work with the ones. We're getting split out wide. They're moving them all over the place. He's getting opportunities, getting looks in practice. He's got a lot of good features in his game. Former wide receiver, speed to burn, killed it at running back last year with SMU. But look at him. Getting out there, boom. They're going to use him in the passing game, for sure. That is going to be good for the Chiefs. That is going to be very good for the Chiefs. Here we go again. Boom. Getting downfield. Getting downfield. Nice grab. Nice grab. He's going to cook linebackers. He's going to cook linebackers. He's got the speed to do that. And he's got the receiving chops to break it off. He's going to cook linebackers. That's the thing about his game. He's going to cook them. He's going to cook linebackers. He's a mismatch nightmare. And you really have to pick your poison when you're covering this team because you got Xavier Worthy with the speed, Jalen Royals with sticky hands, Rashee Rice if he's not suspended for too long. You got Hollywood Brown. Like, he's got speed too. He can break off routes. Oh, there's Travis Kelce. And Brashard Smith. Could be just a weapon they implement here and there. Could have some splash plays. If you're looking at him for fantasy football, he's a late round lottery ticket dart throw, and there's probably going to be a lot of instances you're looking at him off the waiver wire. That being said, we actually called the Jerick McKinnon breakout here on the channel. When he broke out that season and became very good for fantasy football for that spurt, those run of weeks. And what caught my eye when that happened was the routes ran per game and the snaps were increasing like every week, like a good bit. So when you're watching Brashard Smith, you want to watch obviously the snap total and when he's coming into games, but also when he starts running a lot of routes. Like if he's running, I say more than 12 routes a game, you got to get your ears perked up. So if you got room to stash, that's probably when you stash him. That's when you want to stash him. And when it starts getting 15 plus, 18 plus routes per game, he's about to go off. He's about to go off. Because then the targets are going to start coming. And this could be a month-long process. It was a few-week process with Jerick McKinnon. Like prior to that ramp up, it was the routes were increasing. Like little by little every week. He was up there like top 5, top 10 routes ran among running backs. And then all of a sudden, he just started hitting. That was like the little indicator. Like, how many routes was that running back running? He was on the field. The routes are opportunity. You can't get a target unless you run a route, which means routes, workload. That's very important. So you don't want to just look at targets. You also want to look at routes ran on players. And that can give you indicators of players to stash or lottery tickets. He's going to be a good lottery ticket, though. And honestly, when you look at how he plays the game and how he succeeds with that speed and how they're moving him around, he is a guy that probably could have some splash moments and a lot of moments where there's nothing. So in my head, in the back of my mind, I see daily fantasy football and him just being super cheap for your lineups and might be $1 million player, as in he's going to be contrarian. He's going to be very, very, very volatile. But those 1 or 2 games, unless you catch a run where he splashes, and you get him for like $3,000. But plays like that could potentially happen on any given Sunday. And it could happen even with him getting like 6 snaps a game. That could be $1 million player because that's going to allow you to jazz up the rest of your lineup with high-ticket players. That's the thing about that. And it could be like if you're making 50-plus lineups, 80-plus lineups on daily fantasy football, you just start throwing them in on a couple. You make high-ticket lottery stacks or whatever. High-ticket stacks in your lineup. Maybe you do like, say you do 100 or so lineups, just trying to give you a percentage. You may do 2 to 5. Like you keep a very low percentage. 2 to 5 might be too high, maybe 2-ish. 2 to 3, 1 to 3, something like that. You like thinking about him when you're doing a lot of stacks, especially in the infancies. When the routes start running up, obviously, but the obvious is obvious. But if you want to play some lottery tickets in the leagues where you're setting a ton of lineups, the tournaments you're setting a ton of lineups, there you go. There's an option for you in season to think about. Wow, he's super cheap too, because he's going to be able to cram a lot of players. And he could hit on one of those. And if those other players hit, and the contrariness of the lineup could allow you to jump the other lineups. So if that was confusing, going back to redraft, he's a lottery ticket player at the end of your bench. And he's an upside play. You look at the running backs there. Elijah Mitchell is not a bill of health. Isaiah Pacheco was hurt last year. Kareem Hunt's older. Like, there's other running backs there. But you got to look at the attrition and long-term things. This might be a running back that goes back to the waiver wire, gets picked back up, goes back to the waiver wire, gets picked back up. And you got to understand that with a lot of your tickets in the back end of your draft, but you also got to have a spot or two open on your bench for those lottery tickets. Those lottery tickets, you have to be able to read. If they have good draft capital, kind of like a Devin H.N. back in the day, like the reason why I'm using him is because a lot of people wanted to drop him. And then a week or two later, he started hitting. Rookies need time to ramp up. Rookies need time to just get installed. Just get installed. That's the thing. They're like a new computer part put in, and everything just needs to boot up into the offense. In season is different. You saw that with Amarin Hampton yesterday. Like, you saw him take that run to the outside. He was gauging the speed there. If you notice that he was gauging the speed of the game, that speed of the game was different compared to what was in practice. And that's part of the rookie ramp-up. There's a lot of different factors in rookie ramp-ups because this is a very technical game. The NFL game is very technical. And that is something you got to pay attention to when you're looking at these players, especially these young players trying to develop. When I'm looking at Brashard Smith for Dynasty, man, that's a good lottery ticket, cheap in rookie drafts. I hope you're able to get some shares if you're drafting. Another good lottery ticket player late in drafts. Just another good one that should be rostered, will be rostered. I would make it a premise to get him on your teams. There's a few of these running backs, though. This is a deep, talented running back class. If he was in last year's running back class, people would be talking about him left and right still. People talked about him a lot after the draft, moments here and there this season, during training camp. But people would be talking about him left and right if he was in last year's class. Last year's running back class was very weak. So that being said, he probably would have been drafted a few rounds higher in last year's class because there's a lot less competition. A lot less. Because he's a weapon. You can move him around. Put him in a slot. He can take some carries up the gut. You can't just key on one thing with him. And he's got that speed. That's a game changer. This is a game changer running back. We're going to be watching him throughout the offseason, throughout training camp. And then we're on watch every single week on his workload throughout the season. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.